Hey everyone! Welcome to Macro Chat Live, and I can hear music in the background. We have Mike Moats here, yay! And I gotta turn off that music. Okay, I think it turned off. Hey everyone! Oh, I hear a delay. But we'll see if everyone can hear Mike and
Hello.
me.
Here I am. Janice.
So welcome so much I'm very honored to have you, Mike, and I'm hoping everyone can hear you okay. I know you can hear me, but I'm just hoping that everybody out in the web can hear me. But I have, let's see, I know for a fact that YouTube is working, and I'm trying to see if there's people watching. So hey, if you guys want to chat up and ask my questions, I'll be periodically going back and forth. And because I'm excited, we got so much to talk about. Also, I'm trying to see if I was telling Mike, Facebook is not my friend. I don't like how we can't see our images nice and pretty. But oh yes, we are live. Hey, Pam's here, one of my good buddies. Oh no, that's on another show. Look, see, I tell you, Mike, I am so challenged. I told him I was challenged on this. So I apologize, Facebook people, because I just have a hard time with the chat. But I know for a fact that everything's going good on YouTube, so you guys might want to jump on there. But anyways, welcome, Mike. We are going to share so much goodies all about you. What I'm going to do before we get everything going, we'll do my brought to you by goodie that I made. I don't know if you've seen it, Mike. It's hilarious, but it's my what I do for my job, which I totally love. So I'm going to share that with everyone, and then we're going to dive right into you. So
Sounds
one
good.
second, here we go. Today's Macro Photography Live Chat Show is brought to you by Adventurers of the F-Stop, a $29 monthly membership to elevate your macro and landscape photography and business skills. Just go to membership.sullivanjphotography.com and check out all the details to push your creations in 2018. We are back. And you know what's so funny, Mike? I actually can hear the YouTube in the background, which is really interesting. I'm wondering if I could shut it off. But anyways, Mike Moats is here. If you are a macro photographer and not following Mike, you need to do this, because wait till you see his work. We're going to have his website up soon. I'm going to ask him a bunch of questions. You're going to get to know him and how he got into this. This macro live show is all about close-up, macro, and micro photography. So if you're interested, you can definitely check us out. I'll give you more information later. I personally want to dive into Mike and welcome him, and we will share his website as he chats, because I want to find out basically, how you got into photography. We were talking a little bit before, and I love your story. So share with everybody how you got into macro photography.
I actually got into nature photography as a hobby in 2001, and I wanted to be a landscape photographer. And I traveled to Maine, up in Acadia, and done a little bit of landscape near my home, which isn't very much because it's north of Detroit and there's not much good landscape. And I went out to Yosemite, and I was fighting for tripod space with about 50 other photographers trying to shoot some famous scene that Ansel Adams made in one of his books. And I realized on that evening that I really didn't want to shoot subject matter that everybody else was shooting, and that goes on in that same spot 365 days out of the year. So I'd been doing some macro and realized that with my macro photography, all the subjects that I had shot didn't exist anymore because the environment erased them. and I was the only one to witness it, photograph it, and it's my own original art. And so that means a lot to me as a photographer and an artist, is that I have images that are originals and not things that everybody else has shot and seen. So um, I decided that I would invest all the time that I had into macro to be the best macro photographer I could be.
Yeah, and it shows for sure. Oops. For some reason, hold on one second. You disappeared. I told you. Okay, there you are. That's hilarious. I pushed a button, I guess. But yeah, no, for sure. And I'm gonna, when I ask you other questions, I'm going to share your site right now. But I wanted to let you know that AD Wheeler said, "Hi, Janice. Hi, Mike." Um, Oh, BBMS. Hey, Janice. She's the one that has one of the images that you and I are going to critique together. So she's saying
Okay.
hello. Catherine's saying hello. So, yeah, so there's people here watching us, which I'm really excited because I get so inspired by you guys. And I love macro. And so to have, to really see what you guys are up to, you good photographers, really gets us my juices going. So we're going to share your website right now, and I told Mike that we have a little bit of a delay, but I'm going to let him know that that I'm sharing his site, and here it is. It's Mike Moats Tiny Landscapes, and I have his. I don't know which side it is, but I have his website right there in front of you guys. So you got to check out his work. As I'm scrolling, I do have my favorites. I love all his work, but my favorite is truly I love his non-nature. So I want to give, as he's talking, I'm going to ask him a couple other questions. I'm going to share that portfolio, and it goes, which is nice. I don't have to push anything, Mike. Thank you.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah. So it's rolling as we chat, but I wanted to ask you, as we're looking at your images, what's your thought process? I mean, you'd have a variety of macros. So when you go out there, I would love to know, what are you thinking as you're shooting?
Um, I'm looking usually for some kind of interesting designs. And I started out, just wanted to be strictly a nature photographer, but I realized there was a lot of other things in macro that you could do. And so I wanted to branch out, and that's what you're talking about in the non-nature subjects. Because in Michigan here in the wintertime, we're limited on subject matter. We do have some things to shoot in wintertime, but we're not getting the type of chances to shoot like we do in the summer with all the variety of plants and things and flowers and that. So what we do in the north, or if you're in the south where it's really hot in the summertime, is we shoot indoors, and we have just all kinds of things we can be creative with indoors shooting. So that's the nice thing about macro too, is that a landscape and wildlife photographer is not going to shoot it indoors, and so we keep our skills up, and working with our camera and our functions of our camera, and all year round. And so that's a real huge benefit for us, is that we be able to shoot indoors. And there's just all kinds of stuff. I've got you know hundreds of different items that I've purchased at craft stores and eBay, and from watch dealers and parts and things like that we can set up and photograph in our home. And that's with my macro boot camps. I bring all these subjects to the boot camps, and we photograph them right there in the conference rooms. And so when I do like my macro conference each year, there's over 100 setups
Oh, wow, really?
to photograph. And so there's just a lot of subject matter outside of nature we can do as well. And I wanted to make sure that, with teaching people, that we cover all the different types of photography we can do. Uh, I've done stuff in, gone to a Harley Davidson shop and shot uh, parts of motorcycles, and gone into, you know, shops where they have antiques and stuff like that, and found things to photograph. And so it's everywhere. I my main love is nature photography, of course.
Yeah, that's what I'm sharing your leaves right now.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
wow.
that's what I really like. But of course, to be a well-rounded macro photographer, you want to cover all the different types of subject matter that we can photograph.
But you know what's nice too is that you've taken your portfolio and your leaves and you've really have a diverse way of sharing the leaves. And if anybody's gonna go pick up a leaf, your mind has to really think about, like you're saying, you know, maybe it's the texture or whatever. But what I really love is that it's very diverse and with a subject that we see every single day. I mean,
Yeah.
this was cute too. There was one that had a small leaf on a big leaf. I mean,
Hmm.
you have colors, you have water, you have green. Green is one of the hardest. Oh, we were chatting a little bit. There was one that you had that was all green with water drops. Green is really can be very boring. But
Hmm.
with your water drops, do you spray them or do they are is it like what you see when you
No,
go out?
that's all natural. I just go out either after it's rained or early morning when there's a lot of dew out, and so I like the natural
Hmm.
uh, water drops rather than sprayed on, which you can still do, and
Right,
it
right,
looks
right,
good, but I
right,
don't
right.
use it.
Well,
Yeah.
you get more rain than I do. I have to spray.
Yeah.
Living here in California. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
that's what I'd done some workshops out there, and I was telling people, well, just get up early in the morning, go out there's dew, and they're like, we don't have dew, so they have to use a spray bottle.
We're like, dude, what's that? It's so sad. I mean, I would love to have dew. I know.
Yeah,
Miss.
but the leaves are really, really a great subject, and I got into them. Actually, my first article in Outdoor Photographer magazine in 2004 was on leaf images.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh, you were in 2004? I think
yeah,
I was in 2004, or was I in 2007? Oh my gosh, that would be so funny. I have to look it up. Anyways, it would be funny if
yeah,
we were both on it
it
together.
was on shooting, basically shooting leaves, and the idea that there was, there's just hundreds of different types of leaves, and there's thousands of different backgrounds you can put them on.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so it's endless. I mean, there's just so much you can do, and everywhere you go, somebody has trees with leaves they can photograph typically. So it's a great subject. And actually, in the art show business that I was in for 7 years, the leaves were my best-selling images.
Oh, were they really? Yeah, because
I
people can
sold more leaves
relate.
than anything else. Yeah,
What am I in
it's
right now? This one's, I really like your post processing. I went and I think it's uh, Plant Life. You do
hmm
some really creative, let's go back in there. I'm looking at your Plant Life, and some of the Plant Life has some really interesting lighting techniques. Do you do that in post, or is that
yeah.
you do?
Everything is done with natural light.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about post then. Um, everything's shot. You shot in now. You don't use flashes or anything like that. It's all
Never,
natural.
never used a flash.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
okay,
all
okay.
natural light.
So that's see that's interesting. So now when I see some dramatic lighting, what do you do? How do you do that? Tell us your secrets.
It was well. I've always used elements, Photoshop elements, and
Oh.
so none of the lighting was done there, but in Nick software, in Color Effects,
Mm,
um, Viveza,
yeah.
and then I use a little bit of Topaz and a program I use now called Smart Photo Editor.
Oh, I
And
never heard of that one.
it's an awesome program. It's got over 7,000 creative filters.
Oh, wow. Who
Yeah.
makes it? That's the
It's a
company?
company out of England, and
Really?
it's $29.
Oh my gosh, I love it now. Even
Yeah,
more.
it's got so many creative filters. It's amazing. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so a lot of the lighting is created through any of those software. Could be Nick, could be Topaz, or Smart Photo Editor.
Yeah, it's beautiful. You do. I mean, very gorgeous and create. I see some of the topaz, which we will talk about today because your number one fan has worked with some topaz. Later on, we're going to critique her work,
Hmm.
but yeah. So then, I do have another question because I feel like oh, these mushrooms are beautiful. We don't have mushrooms like that either. There was mushrooms on a tree, and you got the back end of the mushroom. So that's cool too. Is like you really move around and try different ways of
Yeah.
sharing your subject, which is very creative and gorgeous.
Yeah. Part of what we like to try to do is come up with something that nobody else has done or we haven't seen done before.
Right,
And
right.
so many times photographers just shoot everything um, basically as everybody else has done it prior to them, then it just becomes kind of boring after a while seeing the same compositions,
Yes.
especially flower photography where they put the flower in the top third of the frame with a stem under it. It's been done a zillion times.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny that you say that because I just went into your flower. Talk about in sync. We are in sync because I just went to your flowers when you were saying about flower photography. So that's perfect that you mentioned that. That's hilarious. Yeah, it's so true. I think that when you're first starting off, though, to learn, just shoot to get and understand everything, and
Hmm.
then really. One of the things that I like to do too is I like to look at my subject on the internet, like whatever I'm doing, say a rose, and then if I see something that's similar to that, then I will not shoot it that way.
Right.
So do you do anything like that research, or you just do it? You
Oh
just go
yeah.
for it.
Yeah, I remember I was with a lady at a botanical garden. She was setting up a shot on a tulip. She was all excited the tulips were out, and she set up a shot. And she asked me to look into her viewfinder and tell me what I thought. And what I saw was a tulip in the top third and the stem under it. And I said to her, I says, "How many times have you seen an image shot like you've just set this one up?" And she goes, "Well, I've seen it, quite a few times." I said, "So, why are you doing?" A composition that you've seen everybody else do. And I says, "And you probably already have this image that you've just shot on your hard drive at home, right?" She goes, "Yeah, I've got a couple like that." I said, "Well, why are you repeating what you've already done? You've already accomplished that. Move on."
It's time to move it. Yep, time to move on for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I Yeah, and that's what's nice about us looking at your work right now. It's showing the variety of flowers. And because you have such a diverse amount, how do you keep yourself motivated? Is it just by the shooting or the post processing? Because we all feel, we go and then we have like these little time frames where like, oh, okay. I mean, how do you keep yourself motivated to say, I'm going to do this or whatever? Curious.
Um, I have one image of a fern on a blackburn log that's been my most successful image, that I've ever shot. It was back in that trip to Yosemite in 2004. And every time I go out to shoot, I'm always wondering if today's the day I'm going to come up with my next best image. And so that's the challenge and that's the fun of it. It's like anybody, an athlete or a musician or anybody that's, they accomplish to a certain level and they always want to go beyond that. And so every time you go out to shoot, it's always, the excitement and the, the fact that today may be the day I'm going to get my next best image. And so that's the excitement of going out to shoot every day. You never know what you're going to find that day. And
Yeah.
so it's kind of a mystery every time you go out. And that's, to me, is the fun of it.
Right, right. So true. And then when you know that you've gotten something, it's such an exciting feeling to know that you're like, whoa, I love what I just shot. And then,
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know if you feel this way, but a lot of times if I got something that I'm just like, oh my gosh, um, maybe because I know that I've done so much post processing, or I know what I could do in Lightroom, just changing a little things up. Not sometimes I want to change a lot, sometimes I don't, but in my mind I can say to myself, "Oh, this is I could really pump this."
Mhm.
Whatever. Do you ever feel anything like that, or is it just more about, oh gosh, I got this composition, or do you load it up and say, when you go in and load up your stuff in Elements, you were saying, then you start really thinking, oh my gosh, you have this cute little bug on a, I don't know if it was teeny little bug, I think it was on a piece of grass. So,
Yeah, when I find a subject when I'm shooting, I'm usually just really concerned about making sure I get that subject composed properly out in the field, and I'm
Hmm.
not really thinking ahead as far as the post processing because I have no idea what's going to happen to it in post processing. Because
Hmm.
with all the creative filters that we do have, you
Hmm.
just never know which one's going to work best with each image. So I don't have any preconceived notion. I've heard people say that when I've shot this, I knew that I was going to use a certain filter, it's going to do this, and I
Hmm.
don't even think that way. I just go out, find good subject matter, compose it well, and then worry about
The
what's going
post
to happen to
afterward.
it when I go. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha. Well, let's see. That's what's so nice. I mean, I think that we all have different ways, but for you, is this is very successful on what you do on grabbing. Right now, I don't know. I don't think that's a bee, but boy, you've got your stuff tack sharp, and when it comes, I'm looking at critters.
Hmm.
So cute. I mean, I'm look. I just looked at. I'm going to go back to that one. I told Mike when I find something, I'll explain to it. So it's a yellow flower. I wanted to share with everyone. It's a yellow flower, and in between the flower is a spider, and you have that spider so sharp. And usually those kind of things are distracting to our eyes, but not in this composition. This composition is like, wow, that's part of the subject. It's part of the moment. And I love that you've got this. I'm not afraid of spiders. I mean, if
Hmm.
I can have a bug and no problem. My daughter freaks out. I was like, "Are you my child?" But you've done so. I'm sharing this with everyone right now because I think this is another thing that's really different that I really like about your work is that you know I want to stop and look at it because there's other components to it. It's not just the flower. There's a
Yeah.
little critter right inside there.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful, beautiful piece. All right, let's see. I'm gonna go to pick it back, and I've pretty much shared almost everything except for miscellaneous nature. Let's go on there, and those look like a lot of abstract.
Yeah. Probably. I like abstracts.
Mm-hmm. You know, oh wow, you have one. That's another thing that's really fun is cobwebs.
Hmm.
I just love the way the patterns are and all that fun stuff. Yeah, I see a lot of pattern in this portfolio. Very nice, very nice. Okay, so let's get in. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna get back to us. And,
Today's
oh,
macro
I don't
photography
want
live chat.
that. Okay, there we are. We're together. Okay, so what I want to do now, I'm going to go to the segment to equipment, and we're going to share your equipment. We'll be right back. Hello, we are back. I put a lot of time into those little segments, so I'm sharing that with everyone.
Sure.
So this is the fun time for me to see what is your favorite pieces of equipment. You could share it with us and talk about it and let us know. I would love to know. Every one of us have our own little specific fun little pieces, so I'd love to hear about yours.
Yeah. Well, obviously the tripod in the head is really important. Um, the tripod I use is a Vanguard. It's an Alta Pro 2 Plus, 263 AT, and it has a center post that raises up and goes horizontal, and then can be raised up and down once it's in the horizontal position. Because with macro, we're always going to be shooting in some crazy positions, and so we need a tripod that'll get that camera into those weird positions that we work with down low. And then the head that I use is an Acrotech Ultimate ball head. And what's nice about that head is that it's a totally unique design, whereas a typical ball head would have a little U slot that we would move the camera to shoot downward. Well, they've cut away the whole front 45 degrees off the face of it, and so the camera has full maneuverability in all movements. And so that combination allows me to get into places that a typical tripod and head would have, it would struggle to get into. And
Yeah.
so it, with as much as I do, I need equipment that's going to obviously get me into places that a standard tripod and head is going to have a problem with. um, Diffuser is the number one thing that I would carry. um, typically on a sunny day, I'm going to diffuse my subject 100% of the time. I just want nice flat light. Because the sun hitting it's going to create shadows in areas that don't want shadows. It's going to create harshness in the light.
Yeah.
But even on cloudy days, we can have subjects that maybe petals of leaves or petals of flowers parallel to the sky will blow out on even a cloudy day. It'll create a whitish spot on it, and the color will be gone. And the diffuser will remove that 100% once it's placed over top of the subject. And so that's something that I always have to make sure I carry as the diffuser. Reflector, if we want to bounce a little light up underneath a flower, that's always good to have. I also have started in the last couple of years carrying a little LED light. And
Oh.
so if I want to add a little bit of light in, fill lighting, I just take the LED light, hand hold it, and shine it wherever it needs to be. So I don't use that very often, but
Yeah.
occasionally might be in a situation where I want a little extra light somewhere, and so the LED light works well. There are accessories, little accessories you carry along with those, but the main thing, oh, hoodman loop is another one to be able to see the LCD on the camera,
Oh, what is
because a
that?
lot,
I don't know what that is.
um,
I don't think I've seen that before.
well, when you're out shooting, on a sunny day, your LCD is pretty useless.
Yes, it is. It's so frustrating.
Well, the hoodman loop is a little tool that hangs from a lanyard around your neck, and you just pop that up on the LCD, and then you look into the. It's like a loop, like the old days when you were looking at
Yep.
slides.
Yep. 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 I was a film
Basically the same
person.
thing. So that goes over the LCD, blocks all that harsh light out, and allows you to be able to see your LCD really well. And for macro photography, I teach in my workshops and that about live view. We use live view for focusing. We can blow that subject up and focus it right there on the live view rather than having to look through your viewfinder. And so if you're going to be using your live view outdoors, you're going to need that hoodman loop. So that's an important tool. But tripod, the head, the diffuser, reflectors, the hoodman loop, LED light, those are your main things. And I have a bag full of different little miscellaneous accessories that I take with me, tweezers and scissors and different things that also knee pads, of course.
Oh yeah, for sure, huh?
Gotta have the knee pads because you're down on your knees a lot. And you're kneeling into stones and sticks and wet grass and mud and all kinds of stuff. So I always want to make sure I have my knee pads with me. But a lot of times when I go out, I'll just throw my camera over my shoulder on my tripod. It's attached to my head, and I just throw it over my shoulder, and I make sure I have my diffuser, because the diffusers I use the 12-inch size. And that actually collapses down to about 4 inches and can actually fit in my front pocket of my pants. So I can go out there just with my diffuser, my hoodman loop, my knee pads, camera over my shoulder, and that's all I
And you're
need.
good to go. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have the 12 too. And Bill just asked, was wondering if Mike uses a wind box as I take
Well,
a sip of my wine.
I created one out of
Oh,
plexiglass.
you did?
Yeah. If you go to YouTube, just type in Mike Moats wind box in YouTube, and there's a 14-minute video on how to build it. It's made out of 1/8-inch plexiglass. It's all held together with duct tape, and it collapses into itself. So it's only a 1/2 inch thick when you collapse it down. Throw it up under your arm. You can take it out there, set it up. It's got 3 sides to it and a top. And I've been out in 15-mile-an-hour winds, and it works great.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna what I'll do is when I check out this, I'll see if I can find the equipment. Otherwise, if you could do me a favor, I'll bug you later and you can share your equipment. I'll put it in the notes underneath, and people can see what you use. I could take your link and link it over to you or whatever. We'll get that information to everybody, because that box sounds really cool. I usually have it sounds really bad, but if it's really bad, depending on, because in the desert it gets really windy. We go to the poppy fields all the time, and I actually have a big, huge deflector, and I have my husband stand there. I'm like, put it there, don't move, because that wind will just blow, boy. It gets really crazy. But that's cool. I like that. That's really neat. All right. Well, you know what? With that great information that I know people will totally appreciate, we're going to go ahead and go into the critique, which is a lot of fun. We're going to chat about the images that were submitted. I will go ahead and I'm getting that echo again, so I'm going to get rid of, for some reason, I don't know why, but I'm getting the echo through YouTube. You probably don't hear it, but I have to shut YouTube down. Sorry, everybody, with the chat. So I popped it up just to see if anybody had questions, and sure enough, there was. But I got to shut it down again because I can hear us talking for some weird reason. But we'll go ahead and do the critique unless there's any other equipment that you think that you want to share with anybody.
No, that's okay. It. I mean, it's pretty simple.
Yeah,
it's not all that complicated. We did talk earlier before the show about the camera.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that for sure.
Yeah, I always teach in my workshops and over the courses that I've done about the camera that I use, and it's actually D7000, which is probably about 6 years old now. It's like generations ago in that 7000 series, and I think it last sold when it was discontinued for about $896. Okay, wow. And people have asked me, like, why aren't you using the pro bodies? And I said, well, because 75% of the people that come in my workshops are using cameras under $1,000. If I'm using a $5,000 camera, they leave my workshop saying, well, Mike's images look good because he's got a $5,000 camera. I'm using a camera under $1,000, like 75% of the people in my workshop are. So I always tell them, I says, if you're not getting images as good as I am, then it's operator error. Okay.
It's true though.
I'll take any DSLR camera and produce images that I can get published in magazines and sell, and it's not about the camera. I use the Tamron lenses. I am sponsored by Tamron, and so I use their lenses. I like two things about them. They're great lenses, for one. As you can see on my website, they produce sharp images. I've had people ask me, are those Tamron lenses that good? Very good. And I go, well, have you seen my images? They go, yeah. I said, what do you think? Well, there you go. The images will tell you how the lens is doing. But what I also like about the Tamron lenses is that they're reasonably priced. They're not going to break anybody's budgets. When you get into the Canons and the Nikons, you're going to be spending more money on those lenses. And hey, if you can do the job with less money, that's a good thing in my thinking. And a lot of the people that come into my workshops, this is a hobby. They don't want to, they don't want to have to get loans and break the bank to buy equipment. They want to be able to produce images without spending a lot of money, and it can be done.
Exactly. And one thing too, Mike, this is something that I'm teaching some of the members that I have. One thing that I noticed that you've done very well is, we love to share our work and express ourselves, but as a business, who your market is. And I think that's really important because who your market is, who's coming to your workshops, which we will share everybody towards the end so you can see where Mike's going to be. But I think that's really smart, and instead of getting all these big top, like you say, the cameras I was talking about, we were talking before the show, I have still my 5D. It's a 12 megapixel. And I did share all the different images with different cameras, and you can't tell. And your work is absolutely gorgeous, Mike. So it's good that you do that. And I like that because I go crazy about equipment. Like somebody had said, how come you haven't got the 5D4? Well, I don't need it. I only get equipment if I need it. The only reason why I got the 5D3, I never got the 5D2. I rented it. I'm a Canon girl, so for me, I just stick with what I'm used to. But the 5D3, I got it because it had video. That was the only reason why I got the 5D. I was fine with everything before. So it is something really good to know. And I like that I think it's important as photographers. Some people are hobbyists and want to improve on the hobby. Some people do want to make this a business. And if you do, you need to know who your market is. It's interesting because I'm always telling them, who do you want? I don't know. Well, who are you sharing your images to? Other photographers. Like, that's my job, not yours. but it is, see, listen to what Mike's doing, guys, you know, so really pay attention to who's.
Yeah, well, we're in a really lucky age because of the internet, and if it wasn't for the internet, I wouldn't be talking to you right now.
True.
In the past, in order to get known as a photographer, you had to have a publisher publish a book and put it on a shelf in a bookstore. That's
Yep.
how you got to know the Art Wolfs and the John Shaws and the ones that had books on the bookshelves.
Yeah.
And when the internet came along, all of a sudden it opened up this huge, place where we could post our images and share our images with people all around the world. And by sharing the images, you started to attract a following if people liked what you were doing. And then when you started to offer workshops, people that admired your work wanted to take your workshop and learn how to do it. So with the internet, and what's really cool is it's almost free. I pay very, very little for advertising because, sharing my workshops and my images on Facebook is free. Twitter is free. All the different platforms, Google Plus and Instagram, and all those are free. My WordPress blog that I did for years was free.
Mm-hmm.
I have a website now that I pay a little monthly fee on, but for me to get my word out there and advertise, it doesn't cost me anything. It's not like advertisers that have to put ads in magazines and spend thousands and thousands of dollars to get ads.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you don't need to have a book published on a bookstore shelf to be known.
Right. Well, for years, for me, I didn't work with photographers. I didn't even bother with photographers. I worked with interior designers, then I started working with art buyers, and then I went into the hospitality. So I had no connection to people. It was more of them. I wasn't, like you say, I first started on LinkedIn. I wasn't even on Facebook or anything. So this is all new. Like you say, this is a great time for us to be able to share our work with everyone and really express ourselves. And I love that you travel all over the place. Oh, we'll have to share that. We'll get into the critique right now, because then after the critique, then we're going to share your workshops, because I was like, man, he travels all over the place. So,
one other thing I wanted to point out
sure.
that I forgot is the lenses I use. I use the Tamron 90 millimeter, and I use their latest 18 to 400 because their zoom lenses have some macro capabilities.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they'll, that 18 to 400 will focus down on an area as small as 2 inches by 3 inches.
Oh my gosh, I had no idea, because that used to frustrate me before until I got a macro lens.
Yeah, so a lot of what I shoot now is done with an 18 to 400, and if I need to get into a smaller area, I pull out the 90 millimeter, which is a 1-to-1, and those are the only two lenses that I use.
Oh, that's interesting. See, that's great.
So you don't need a whole battery of lenses to be a macro photographer.
Yep. You just need to push your limits, like you say. You need to step out of that box. All right, let's go ahead and see what these two people have stepped out of their box and see what happens here. We'll give them a little critique. I'm going to go ahead to my little intro, and then we'll come back. Hey, oh yeah, now I'm on this. See, now I'm different. Now I can't see Mike. So maybe I should change. Yeah, because I have Lightroom now over here. So now I'm on a different camera, because I like to be able to really see the images. So I'll kind of look back and forth. Everybody can see Mike below and I'm above. But I was telling Mike, I only have two at the most when it comes to critique. And the first one we're going to do is Jerry. And so the reason why I don't want tons of just the flow, I get flustered when I see people just like, oh, that's a good image. Oh, that's a good image. I mean, we work our butts off for these images. So, I really want to spend time just getting to know the people that are submitting these images, and we will say how we feel and give you some pointers and all that fun stuff. So, Mike, what I'll do right now is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read Jerry's information, and then you and I can dive in, and I'll share with you this. Jerry gave us 3 images, a little bit of background, I guess, and I might share the behind the scenes. It depends. I mean, she shared what she actually shot. She took the next step of the background, and then what everybody is seeing now is the final project, the final image. And Jerry is, I was telling Mike, Jerry is Mike's number one fan. I mean, I've had Jerry, just to let you know, Mike, I've had Jerry, and I'm a master in the Arcanum with Trey Ratcliffe, and he started it up. And so she's been with me. She was like my second apprentice, and then now I have a membership, and she's with me. And I'll tell you, she would be like, have you seen Mike Moats' blog post? It was great. I think that's how I got to know you. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, I'm sure it was Jerry, because she just loves your blog post. So just to let you know, she is definitely reading what you put out there, okay?
Well, you know, for about 4 or 5 years, I posted a blog post every single day.
Did you really? That is so much work. How many years did you do that?
For about 4 or 5 years.
Wow. Yeah.
I think all that time I only missed a day or two, but I've cut way back on that. I don't do as many as I used to, but yeah, for quite a few years, every single day I did a blog post.
Wow, that kudos to you, because that is so much work to do something like that. I have a hard time. My blog post goes out every other week, and then I do this. So I enjoy talking. I enjoy doing this. So yeah, that's a. Well, it worked, because Jerry is your number one fan. And I'm sure there's plenty more out there. So I'd like to do a little background about the image, so I'll go ahead and read it. And I know, I'm sorry, Mike, that I'm not looking at you, because I've got this going over here. But she says, here's what she remembers about the image. It's hilarious. She has a Sony A7R II 90 millimeter Sony macro lens. It's shot at f9, 8 seconds. ISO is 50, and she's on a tripod. She shot manual in her studio with natural light. She processed in Lightroom, Photoshop, Topaz, Impressions, and texture, she says, I think. She can't remember if she used textures, but final lighting added in Lightroom with the radio filter. Her goal for the shot, she was just trying for a very low-key saturated flower portrait, perfecting my technique. So she's playing, you know. And I love that the center of the flower is exposed. She says a little background about Jerry. She says there's almost always flowers in the house, either from her garden or wherever. She feels compelled to shoot them if they're looking gorgeous. I know it won't last, so she says, if I don't get in there now, it'll be too late, which is so true. One thing she did say is that, and I don't know if I sent that to you, I apologize, but she did say the low-key style she's been trying is to emulate is from Alan Shapiro. So I wanted to tell you, Jerry, Alan just emailed me today. He's gonna be on the show too. So he'll be honored to. I'll have to tell him about that. So, but I do know that you just love Mike Moats, so I'm sure she's very honored that you're going to go ahead and chat about her work. Now, do you have the image in front of you? Can you see it?
No, you sent it to me.
Okay.
I did see it. It was the rose flower.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And it was pretty much just centered. Mm-hmm. You know, as kind of what I had said earlier about, you know, most people tend to put a flower on the top there with a stem under it, which is what it was. But the difference between her flower, and I had done this in the past myself, where if you pull the petals off of a rose, there's a really interesting inside to that rose. Mm-hmm. Let me see if I can get and there's a really cool design inside there. And so the fact that it's just a pretty much a standard portrait of a flower, the flower itself has a unique character to it. And
Yes.
so that's what makes it a cool image. Now, she also did some really nice post-processing on it. It looks really nice, a little slightly painted looking,
Mm-hmm.
which I tend to like.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything was nice and sharp. And so I think, like I said, composition wise, the flower is a pretty standard shot, but because the flower is so unique, and the way she's opened that front petals up, and so that you expose the inner parts of the flower, which we typically don't see. Most people, when they see a rose, you know what a rose looks like,
Yep.
and that's what we usually see. Well, this is totally different by exposing the center part, and so the flower kind of stands out as it has some character to it, and so that makes it unique. So even though the composition of the flower itself is nothing unusual, the flower is unusual, so that's what makes it a nice image.
Right, right. I like it too. She really does go for it when it comes to trying to make it her own style with the, she's a topaz girl for sure.
Yeah.
And impressions. She loves that.
But you can tell it's got some really nice post processing there.
Yeah, I love it. One of the things I mean, I love her color, and boy, does she, like you were saying, it's very sharp in the middle.
Hmm.
I like the way the warmth feel of the background, and how the red just makes it all pop. I did, Jerry, because I know Jerry, I did want to let you know that over here on the left side, I was curious on your lighting because the lighting looks really beautiful, but the lighting's kind of going off into out and away from the, out of the actual image itself. So if you want our eyes to go into the flower a little bit more on the left hand side, I would just bring some more darkness into it, if unless you want our eyes to flow off of the composition, because you could have a whole portfolio doing something like this, but I just wanted to let you know that we do go to the brightest areas. So I love what she's done and everything. I was just kind of curious on her lighting on to the left of it. So I was just curious if she, because they're stories. It's a story. And so if you wanted our eyes to go more into the flower, I would just kind of tone that left side, in post, just using a gradient filter or something. But yeah, I think it's very successful. I'm going to share with everybody the before, because this is going to tell you how much work Jerry did. So here is her image that she took, and it's gorgeous. It's very sharp, and I'm going to share it with everyone. Oh gosh, the 1-to-1. This has to do with Facebook. But boy, inside the middle, she's definitely wanted her eyes to go there for sure, because that's tack sharp, beautiful.
Yep.
And then she ended up putting the background pure white, cleaned it up so then she could play with her post. And then that's where we are at now. So yeah. All right. Thank you, Mike. We're going to go into Becky's now. Now, Becky wrote a lot of good information. And when just to let you know, Mike, I'll ask them, we have a Facebook group that they can join, and then I ask them to submit the images, and I want their goals basically, and I do ask a couple other things. So one thing that Becky did was she gave me, I like to get to know who's actually submitting, and Becky, I'm going to read her, usually I don't totally put this out on the show, but I thought everybody should listen to this, because we are all macro photographers, and I was talking to Mike, was going to understand this after I read this, but let me just say what she says about herself. Let me get to her image, and okay, so it's the image with the ladybug. Okay.
Hmm.
So she says, as a retired RN, I now have time to devote to what has become my passion in life. Photography has always been a hobby, and I have always had a camera, first film and now digital. But it is macro photography that has captured me totally. I simply cannot get enough. I love landscape as well, but I constantly think about what macro techniques and what subjects I can try next. I believe that all of the creations speak to the glory of the Creator, who has given us so much to enjoy. It is my hope that my images allow others to enjoy the wonder of all of creation and of the glory the one has created, the glory of the one who has created them. So what I really love about this is, I was talking to Mike that, us macro people, it's not just, we love macro photography. That's why we're here. And she's saying that is what she loves to do. Macro captures her totally, and we can relate. And I was telling Mike, I was saying, I get so flustered with, like, oh, that's just something you just do on the side. No. We are obsessed with seeing these beautiful things that you would walk by, which I'm going to read now about how she got the flower, or the composition actually of what she's done. She says, and which she could relate to Mike, I'm sure, because she says, one of the reasons I love macro photography is that it could be done almost anywhere and anytime. I recently purchased a flash to use to add more light to my macro images. But because I never have used a flash before, I have to learn how to use it, basically, is what she's saying. She reads, this is a lot of photographers, she reads a lot of articles and watches numerous YouTube videos to get an idea of how I can improve my macro images, as often find she needs more light, especially when photographing indoors. I have a small flower arrangement on my kitchen table and decided to try some macro images using the flash. The most satisfactory images were the ones which the flash was bounced off of the white ceiling. She says she loves images of insects, but this time of year they are scarce outdoors. But I have many ladybugs that winter in her house during the winter months, and added one to the flower arrangement. She sent me 2 images, but this is the one that I picked. But it was interesting to me, how cool to have ladybugs in winter in your house. I would be so excited over that.
Yeah, exactly.
So she shot this with a Nikon D7100 with a Tokina. Is that how you say it? With a Tokina macro?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm saying
Tokina.
it right. Okay.
Tokina. Yeah.
Okay. Macro 100 2.8. It was shot at f 6.3 at 1/6 of a second, and she was on a tripod with ISO 200. She used the flash at half power and bounced it off of the ceiling. And she edited them in Lightroom. Her goal was basically to learn how to use a flash effectively, and she was pleased with the results of how she used this. So my goal, let's see, I have a lot to learn, she says, about using and creating light. Well, we all have a lot to learn. That's what I'm glad that she's out there doing it and just playing. So, yeah, I mean, she says there's not very much. So she's like you, Mike. There's not, the winter months, you just can't. But it's pretty cool. I would never even imagine that this was done in the winter in her home.
Yeah. If she was to look at my website, you'll see a lot of critter shots, and I've got a lot more that aren't on the website. They're all done with natural light. I never use flash, even indoors. I have a stairway in my foyer with a lot of natural light from a big window over top in the upper area of the foyer that lights it. I just use whatever's available. And then if you have a door wall or a window, just set up a table alongside of it, and let that natural light come in. It's so much better because you don't have problems with blowing out areas. Like you'll see here on her petals are white, and I believe they're supposed to be yellow because they've just blown out from the light. So that's a big problem for people using flash. And I'll be honest with you, I have hundreds of people go through my workshops each year, and we're shooting indoors in conference rooms under fluorescent lighting, and nobody's using a flash. There's nobody in my workshops using a flash. You don't need a flash. I mean, there are people that are out there that use them, that do well with them, but they're very hard to learn how to use them properly.
Yeah.
Most people struggle with flash. As I said earlier, you're probably farther ahead and much easier just taking an LED light and adding a little bit of light onto your subject, without overdoing it and blowing out colors and things like that. So I've done it for years without a flash. You don't have to have a flash.
Right, right. One thing with me is that I went to college, and the professor was like really into studio photography. So,
Yeah.
but I want people to understand that because I'm doing a studio, light is light. And like you were saying, I got up close to the ladybug, and you could see the flash. Excuse me, you could see the flash on the ladybug. So if you're doing something like this, you really do need to clean it up because it takes our eyes to it. But what I really love, I'm sharing this ladybug up close. She got so good when it came to focusing the eyes on one of the ladybugs. I can actually see, you know how they have many eyes too,
Sure.
you could actually see it. And it's just like, wow, that's so cool. She got very close to and got those eyes. I don't even know if Becky realized that she did that, but I'm going to let you go ahead and say, is there anything else that you would like to? How about the the composition where she has the yellow and the green and all that stuff?
Well, first she has the bug directly in the middle of the frame,
Mm-hmm.
and we always talk about thirds and two of the thirds and corners and different things that we use in compositions, and so typically you like to try to get that bug out of the center,
Mm-hmm.
and the other problem that I always see, not only just with bugs like this, but flowers too, is that people tend to leave that they include too much of the background.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, the bug is the main subject, so why not get in closer and fill the frame more with the bug, and not have so much of the background around it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you've got way too much, to the left and to the right,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't need that much. You could actually easily crop off some of that green on the left side and have your bug into the left third of the frame.
Mm-hmm. And she still would have, if she cropped it, she would still have the yellow and the green if she was going for that kind of look.
Sure.
And it actually, to tell you the truth, I really agree with that because if you crop into it, you still have those colors, but we're really seeing the main subject, which is that awesome ladybug.
Yeah. So I would crop off, enough on the left side to put that bug into the third of the frame, and then I would crop off some of the top. That little dark area up in the upper right corner is a little distracting too, because it's not consistent with the rest of it, which is a nice bright colors, and all of a sudden you have this dark color up in the top corner.
Mm-hmm.
So probably cut a little bit of that out of there from the top, and then bring in some of the left side and get that bug more in the third of the frame rather than right dead center.
Yeah, I'm playing with it right now. That's why I have it in Lightroom.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so much better, Mike. I did it. I did what you said, and it looks good.
And like I
Um,
said, the petals, the tips of the petals being white, they're
yeah,
just a solid white, and there's nothing, no detail to them, so they're just kind of blobs there,
yeah.
and that's partly due to the light that's creating that kind of washed out and blown out look on it. So chances are she'd probably been able to do this without the flash, and got colors throughout
Hmm.
those tips of those petals instead of white petals.
Yeah, I agree. I think what people do is, I mean, light is light, and like Mike was saying, you could put your setup and you can put it next to a window. I used to have my setup over in the back. It was a big sliding glass door. That was
Right.
really fun too.
Yep.
Um, if you want to use flash, it's usually to stop the motion. Maybe if you have something going fast, maybe you want to stop the motion. Okay, but to do something, I mean, I think ladybugs just pretty much chill.
Well, all the bug shots that you see on my website, they're all shot at daybreak on cold mornings. Because when bugs go through the nighttime and the temperatures drop down in the upper 40s, even low 50s, their body temperature lowers down to the point where they can't move in the morning until they warm up.
Right,
And
perfect
so
time.
all the bug shots you see on my website are all shot at daybreak on cold mornings, when the bugs are not moving, and I can set up my tripod. I can take my time, work my camera angles and all that, and photograph them. I don't go out in the daytime when they're flying around and
Yep.
they're moving real quick and try to shoot them then.
Yeah,
So
great tip. Great tip. Yeah, definitely do that because you guys saw Mike's stuff. It's all nice and sharp. Just get up and get your coffee going.
yeah,
Bring that mug.
yeah, yeah. Luckily, I'm a early riser, so I'm up at 4 or 5 in the morning. So it's easy for me to go out at daybreak.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
can't get out there that early.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to go ahead and now because I tell everybody that we've done really good. It's been an hour, but Mike's I have to share Mike's stuff. He has some workshops that I want you guys to check out. So let me get into his website and pull that baby up. Where are you, Mike? There you are. Let's go into your workshops and let me move us over into um, let's see, I know I have it in here somewhere. Where are we? With its share website. Okay, so here is Mike's workshops. I'm sharing everybody right now. He's on the tinylandscapes.com. And if you click on to his workshops over here, that's how you can get to see what Mike's up to. And I was looking at your unfortunately, everybody, Mike's website looks great, but because I'm on Facebook, I have to crunch everything down, so I'm kind of moving things around. But I see the old car. That's another thing that's really cool, macro too. I don't know if you do that just close up, but I really love rusty stuff. That's really neat to do.
Yeah, Old Car City is one of the top places in the world, basically, for shooting old rusty cars.
Oh,
It's a
where is
great
it
place.
at? I mean, where's the?
It's 50 miles north of Atlanta, Georgia,
Oh,
off of
wow.
I-75 in White, Georgia. And he's got about 4,500 old cars, and they're all in the woods. It has 6 miles of trail. It's
Wow.
just amazing. And so I do a workshop there twice a year. I've got one coming up in about 5 weeks there in March, and they sell out every time I run them.
Yeah,
So
these are great. I'm showing the picture of the card that's in front right there. Beautiful colors. Um, and that one is coming soon, or I don't see the date.
yeah, that's on March 10th and 11th, I believe, but
Okay.
that's sold out now.
Oh, it's sold out. Duh.
Yeah,
And
I'll
then
be
I
running
see.
another one in about November.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
Twice a year I run them.
Oh, okay. And I see you're going to be in Florida, Macro Boot Camp, and
I'll
in
be in Sarasota, Florida, Palm Coast,
South
um,
Carolina.
yeah, South Carolina.
You're all over. That's why I was like, wow. This is good.
I'll be out in your area in October, out in Thousand Oaks.
Oh, Thousand Oaks, yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's next to me. We're I live in the foothills, Thousand Oaks over here, and we're over here. But
yeah.
boy,
I've got a couple weekends set up there.
oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
have to let my friends know because I have
I'll be up
one. Oh, go ahead.
Colorado,
Colorado.
Loveland, Colorado. I'll be out there.
I see
April.
Florida too.
Yeah.
Wow, you got a lot of stuff. So is that what you're up to? Do you have any new things that you're planning or what are you
Well,
up to?
I had started a macro photo club in August, and
Oh,
the members each month get 12 videos, instructional videos.
how can I get to that? Is that on your home?
Well, it's not available anymore. We've got over
Oh,
500 members, and I put a hold on it right now.
oh, okay. So
So
later
actually,
on.
as of today, February 1st is when it ended. And so
Oh,
it's a year membership for $39, and we have over 500 members, and now
oh,
it's on
that's
hold right now. And then after those people run through their membership, then we'll come up with a different format and do it again.
oh, that's fun. That sounds like a good time. Yeah. Let
Yeah,
me.
and then I speak at some conferences. I'll be at the a photo conference. Berks Photographics Society puts on a conference in Reading, Pennsylvania, in March, and then I'll be at Creative Photography Festival or something in outside of Boston, and that's in May, I think it is.
Now, is that going to be on your website or does people have to
I
follow you?
I'll mention that on my blog.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
I've mentioned it a couple times on the blog.
Oh, okay.
Then there's one at the Chicago Botanical Garden, put on the people that do the out of Chicago shows.
Yep.
They're doing a macro, kind of a macro conference. Actually, that Alan Shapiro that you mentioned,
Oh, he's going to be there?
he's going to be there, and Charles Needles and Ann Belmont and
Is Don going to be there? Don's going to be my next guest. Don Komarechki?
oh yeah, he's going to be at my macro conference.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So in the end of October, I do an annual macro conference, and we had people last year when we did it from 19 different states.
Oh, how
Come in.
fun.
And we limited to 100 people.
I think Sherry Miller was there. Do you remember Sherry Miller? I know she
No,
went to
I met her in out of Chicago in the winter conference.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But every year we change up the speakers, but Donna's going to be one of our speakers this year. He actually was a speaker for me in Massachusetts when I did it a few years ago. Excellent speaker. Does an amazing job. Beautiful work.
Yes, I enjoy him. He's such a nice guy. Yeah, he's going to be on March 1st. So what I'm doing is I'm having a macro photographer or a photographer that I see that I really like their images once a month. And so I have Dawn coming up next, and then Sherry, and then I got I was really excited because, I was so happy that you came, and then I'm going to have, who is it again? Oh my gosh. Wait, she's so cool. I have to find my paper. Let me show you. Do you know who, where is it? Of course. Oh, here it is. Kathleen Clements.
Oh, yeah. She was at my conference, too.
Yeah, so Kathleen's coming on board. Yeah. So I just have to connect with them, too, to find out which month. And I was very excited and honored that they're also coming on. And you know what? That just shows everybody that we love our macro, and we want everybody to enjoy it, too.
Yeah, and that's why I do the conference each year is to bring in all these different photographers that do different styles. Because like Don does snowflakes and water drops, I don't do snowflakes and water drops. And we have Harold Ross this year that's going to do a light painting.
I've seen his work. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And so we try to bring in, and Kathleen does the Lens Baby, and Belmont last year did that. And then we have Jackie Kramer, who's coming in this year to do her flower photography with Lens Baby. And so we always, John Gerlach was at the last one, and he did one on flash. I've never had anybody do one on flash, but I thought that's something that people could be exposed to.
Exactly.
And so I try to bring in speakers that all cover a little different type of macro photography, so they expose what they do, and that's a good thing. And then everybody can see the different styles and decide what they like to do. And then we usually like to try to bring someone in that does non-macro photography. So it's just a great conference, and it's $199. It's 2 days. It's in Middleburg Heights, Ohio, outside of Cleveland by the Cleveland Airport. So you can actually fly right into the Cleveland Airport. The Crown Plaza Hotel has a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week shuttle that you can get a free shuttle right from the airport to the hotel, so you don't have to rent a car.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and then the hotel gives us a good rate on the rooms so that you get a good price on the rooms, and they have a restaurant right in there where everybody can eat, for lunch and stuff like that. So it's a great time, and anytime you get 100 photographers together that love a certain style of photography, it's a blast, And then we have Hunt's Photo comes in, sets up tables and sells products there, and so they sell a ton of stuff. People buy a lot of stuff from Hunt's.
Oh yeah, that sounds like so much fun.
Yeah.
Let's see. Bill says, great info, Mike. Catherine says, I've attended 2 of Mike's macro workshops in Atlanta. And he is a great teacher, and I had so much fun. Awesome. And then Becky says, thank you, Janice and Mike, for taking the time to offer suggestions to help me improve. You are most welcome. So would you, before we head out, I do need to let everybody know that the next show it's every other Thursday. And so you guys can see the show, not this Thursday coming up, but the next Thursday. And throughout this, the show, my website's been popping up where you guys could submit your images for critique and also ask questions. So, and also below we'll have the links. I really didn't want to get totally into that because I'd rather chat with Mike instead of talking about all my stuff. So it's all about him tonight. And is there anything else before I do a get to know us type of thing? I have a little thing towards the end that I show everybody. Would you like to share anything else?
Just that I always like to point out to people, because I've had this, mentioned to me before, that the thing about macro photography is it's not a real high success rate when you go out to shoot. So if I go out for a 2-hour shoot, my goal is to come home hopefully with one image that I like. And I mean, I can come home with a whole bunch of mediocre images, but I want something that really pops and really makes me feel good, and something I want to put out there and share with people. And uh, I have had people say, I was out for a couple hours shooting and I only got one image that I liked, and I pat them on the back and say, congratulations, you did well. And they look at me like, what are you talking about? That's terrible. No, that's the reality of macro photography. What we see with our eyes out in the field doesn't always translate into a flat, screen when we get home and look like it did when we saw it in the field. And so it is a low success rate. So if you understand that and accept it, then you don't feel so bad when you come home and you only have that one good image.
Exactly, huh?
Now, when you go into, say, a botanical garden, nature centers, place that where they have a huge volume of plants and flowers, you're going to have a little higher success rate there because of the mass amount of subject matter. But when you're out in the field searching for subjects to photograph, much more difficult, and it takes many years and many hours in the field to develop a big portfolio of really good images. And that's the other thing too, is a lot of people will say, well, I've got thousands and thousands and thousands of images on my hard drive. I don't even think I have 1,000 images on my hard drive, because if I've shot an image that I'm not willing to put it out there for people to see, then I'm going to delete that image. I mean, it doesn't have any value to me then. um, so I don't save a lot of images. I only save what I feel like I'm willing to share with people and let people see. And if I'm not willing to show that to people, then I don't see any reason to hang on to it.
Mm-hmm.
So those are just some little simple things that, hopefully, like I said, just so that people understand that it's not a real high success rate when you go out into the field searching for subject matter when you come home, so that you don't feel bad if you're not, coming home with 10 great images every time you go out to shoot.
Yeah, no, that's great. That is an awesome tip because I think that's one of the reasons why there's, the macro photography. People are like, oh, it's just a little thing to do, because people get flustered about not having the shots. But I totally appreciate that tip, Mike, and I'm glad that we end with that tip so people understand that don't get mad, don't get flustered, don't think you suck. It's okay, keep doing it. Keep doing it.
Yeah. The other thing too is that in the first 3 years that I was shooting, from 2001 to 2004, not one of those images are on my website today. That was 3 years of shooting.
Yeah.
There's not one of those images that are on my website. It took a long time before it finally kind of kicked in, and I finally figured out composition and camera functions and all that kind of stuff. But I was having fun. I mean, I was having a good time while I was doing it for those first 3 years. And there was images that I shot at that time that I thought were really good. But then as you started to progress and you look back, you realize they weren't that good. And then you started deleting all those. But yeah, 3 years in the first 3 years, not one of them on my website. And in the fourth year is when it finally started to kick in for me, and then I got on a roll.
Yeah.
But yeah, it took a while to get it together. And so for those that have the patience to work through all that, they'll be rewarded, but you got to stick with it and you got to put the time in. It doesn't happen by going out there once a month and shooting.
Exactly.
And you really have to get out there and shoot a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. You have to keep going and going and that's why I think people get unmotivated. They don't get motivated. They say, "Oh, I'll never." No, look at Mike's telling you will. Just keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. It's okay. It's okay to delete.
Yeah, and a lot of people, they'll say, well, you have a lot of really nice images and really cool images. Well, those images, were only found because I was willing to put the time in to go out there and find them. If you're not out there a couple days a week at least, it's going to be tough to find those subjects.
Yeah.
You got to put the time in.
Yeah. Yeah. And realize that when you put it on your computer, it's okay if there's something. I still think too, even if you look at everything that's been on your computer, you say, I don't like any of it, you still learn. There's something you realize, okay, that didn't work with that, and next time I'll try this. So you're still learning. Just because it didn't work out doesn't mean that it was a waste of time, for sure.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Okay. Thank you so much. I'm going to do a get to know you, and then I'll just pop back real quick just to see if there's any last questions from you guys, and then Mike and I will leave. So let me go ahead and go do this little thing, and we will come back real quick. To get to know us in more detail, check out sullivanjphotography.com. And while you're at it, sign up for challenges, deep dive photography information, and free textures by just filling out your email and your name and pushing that grab your first challenge. If you'd like to even dive deeper into your photography and really elevate it, check out membership.sullivanjphotography.com. This is a membership that's only $29 a month, and we give you everything that's needed to really push your macro and landscape photography. Hope to see you there. We are back, and I have to say it is late for Mike, so I totally appreciate you. I'm looking right now. I'm only looking in YouTube, so I'll go back to Facebook after we're done and make sure that if there's any questions, maybe I'll throw it out to you or answer them myself, because I can't get Facebook worked out. Unfortunately, I'm not tech savvy on what's going on with Facebook, but I think everybody's gotten great information from you again, and I totally appreciate you. I know it's so late over there. Yes.
I almost turned you down when I heard what time it was going to be. It's my bedtime. 9 o'clock.
I know. We were talking about that too. It's so hard. All right, Mike, hold on one second. We'll say goodbye to everyone else, but I just want to chat with you. I'll let you know when this is actually done. So hold on one second. We're going to bye, everyone. Information from you. I know it's so late over there.